Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Max Herz, Parker Kelly with you on your Thursday morning, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Dealing with some technical issues, so apologies if I don't sound great right now. Hopefully they will be fixed up for the next segment, but we are live out here in Fort Worth, Texas today, getting ready for the Sweet 16 tomorrow. And Max Herz is back at Bridgestone Arena with us today. Max, what's going on?
Hi, Jake. Hopefully I sound good.
Yes, you do. I am trying to figure this out. My computer decided to shut down and not turn back on 2 minutes before we went on the air, which is always what you want, right? So we are trying to figure that out, but as soon as we do, hopefully it will sound better. No TD today. It is opening day, so he is out in New York. So we decided to slide things around a little bit, and we've got Max for the full first hour of the show. And Max, how about that game on Tuesday against San Jose? I mean, we talked about it last week. Every game against these teams you're competing with might be the most important game of the season. And that one, the Preds came out and played like it scored 5 goals in the first period.
The Preds continue to separate themselves from every team they're competing with for this final spot. It's really incredible that the Preds have turned it on and started playing so well, winning 5 in a row. And the other 4 teams in the mix with them have fallen off a cliff and don't want to win. The Sharks have now lost 5 in a row. If they had won even 2 of those games, they would be controlling their own destiny for the playoffs since they have games at hand. But no longer, and we saw it head-to-head. The Predators absolutely dominated that game. It was the best first period in franchise history, just the second time that they've scored 5 goals in the first period in 27 seasons. It was just a decisive win start to finish. UC Saros made some saves when he needed to, but it was the game I thought where he was the least tested in this stretch, and the Preds didn't need amazing goaltending to win that game because the offense got it done.
Yeah, I mean, 5 goals in that first period. It just was a flurry. It felt like the floodgates opened. And Max, we've talked all season long about the slow starts for this team. It feels like that has started to become a thing of the past with the way the Preds have played early on in the last few games.
Yeah, if nothing else, I think they need to just keep it even in the first, It's the only explanation I really get from the players asking them why they keep going down in the first is that there's something in the back of their heads that they know they can come back, which despite the fact that it's obviously good that they can come back and win games, is not healthy to the psyche. And there's so much in the mental game that factors into what goes right and what goes wrong at the beginning of games. But man, they made up for it in a big way. I mean, they played a good period. They had 9 shots on goal, and they scored 5 goals. Just insane to think about.
Jake, I think you're muted. This is great radio.
There we go.
There we
go.
Hey,
now we've got it.
We're back.
I was able to finally get my laptop working and then didn't unmute myself. Just
pull the Joe Rex road.
Love the way the radio is going today. Max, 5 goals and 7 shots in that game to start was great. And we saw it from up and down the lineup. I think you're starting to see not just the young guys who we've talked about a lot. Matt Wood had another goal in that first period, but you also saw Philip Forsberg continue to play well. And Steven Stamkos, it really does feel like the whole lineup is coming together at the perfect time as we head down the stretch here.
Yeah, getting hot at the right time for sure. Philip Forsberg is on another planet right now. He single-handedly won the Preds the game Sunday in Chicago 2 games ago. I mean, the stuff he was doing in that game offensively, he was showing off everything that you'd ever want to see from Philip Forsberg. The shooting, the passing, playmaking, the tricky stuff that no one else can do, usually with his stick and with his hands, but also with the soccer kick pass that if Steven Stamkos had been able to bury, which, first of all, I didn't realize calling the play live, when Forsberg kicked that puck, it hit the defenseman and changed shooting lanes, and Stamkos still got a clean shot off, which is impressive. If that had been a goal, that would have been one of the goals of the year because of the setup by Philip Forsberg. So Forsberg is on another planet right now. Stamkos has 4 goals in the last 3 games, 6 points in the last 4 games. The big dogs are the big dogs, and Jonathan Marchessault's awake. He's making plays. He set up Philip Forsberg for a one-timer goal in Chicago. He had 3 hard-earned helpers last game. The top of the lineup is getting it done. Matt Wood is there when you need him. Luke Evangelista is there when you need him. And Ryan O'Reilly is the two-way guy at the top of the show. So the big dogs are going to have to carry them, and that's what's been happening. The supporting cast, the young guys have been good, but they're not going to be the guys that win a playoff series for the Preds. It's going to have to be goals from Philip Forsberg and Steven Stamkos. It's going to have to be playmaking from Luke Evangelista. It's going to have to be net front play from Jonathan Marchessault, and it's going to have to be everything from Ryan O'Reilly, which you feel like you're always going to get.
Yeah, and you mentioned Marchessault, and that's the one guy that I think a lot of Preds fans have been disappointed with in the way that he's played since the signing last summer. It does feel like he's starting to come into his own, and that could be a huge piece for this team where it's not just the usual suspects, but you're getting contributions from a guy that you're obviously paying a lot to be part of this lineup, and he's finally starting to come through.
Well, I'll counter part of that, Jake, because I don't think Marchessault's salary is something that like changes the external opinion of him. I don't think he's too highly paid. He gets $5.5 a year, which I think is a fair salary for all he's accomplished. And with the cap going up, honestly, if he does finish that contract here in Nashville for 3 more seasons, that is not a big portion of the cap with how much the cap is going to go up over the next few years. So I don't levy my expectations on Jonathan Marchessault because of his salary. I put the expectations on him because of what I know he can do, what he's capable of, and when he gets going, what he can bring to you. And I think in the last few games, we've seen that. He has 5 assists in the last 3 games. And he's just been around the puck a lot more. He's been around the net a lot more. I think playing with Matt Wood as his center has really helped him, and it's dragged him into the fight. We saw him step up and defend Matt Wood last week and just start swinging wildly to defend his young teammate, which was awesome. And, like, that's what Jonathan Marchessault was born to do. When the Preds first got him in preseason last year, he was standing up for guys. He was going after people. He was an emotional leader, and then we basically lost that for the entire season last year. And outside of a 2-3 week stretch in December and January, his first season with the Preds was a total wash. And now this year, he was dealing with a couple of different injuries. I think it was a really tough time for him physically earlier this year. And whether or not he's 100%, I think being back in the playoff push for a guy who has gotten used to playing his best in the most important games in Las Vegas, where he won the Conn Smythe. Like, I think these games meaning something here and him playing playoff style hockey with the Preds for the first time is what has brought him back into the fight. Now he needs to keep doing it. And if they do get to the playoffs, raise it to another level, which I think is doable.
Preds are now in control in the second wild card and only a couple points back of Utah for that top wild card spot with a game in hand. So lots of important hockey being played down the stretch, including tonight, against the New Jersey Devils in the second of this 3-game homestand. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We've got Max for the full first hour here on the show talking Preds. We'll keep it going coming up next. Jake Lyman, Max Herz, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Swing by T-Line at 106 Duluth Avenue in Nashville this Saturday for their annual crawfish boil starting at 2 p.m. $30 buckets with a complimentary drink, indoor and outdoor seating, plus curling cold drinks. Also, a great place to catch the basketball games that evening. 102.5 The Game will be on site from 3 to 5 with great giveaways and prizes. Jake Lyman, joined by Max Herz from Preds Radio for the full first hour of the show. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Max, UC Saros, back healthy. He returned to the lineup on Sunday, also was in net on Tuesday. And that's a big development. We were talking about it on Friday. We didn't quite know why he was unable to play on Thursday. Good to see. It was a very small issue, only missed a couple of games, and he's been good the last couple of times out.
Yeah, I think it was like just a tweak or a flare-up of some kind.
Yep.
And he was able to get through it. He says he feels great. I hope the Preds will still be a little bit cautious with his workload down the stretch, given Justus Annunen maybe 4 of the last 11. There are 2 back-to-backs, so I think maybe you sprinkle in a couple, especially if you can take a look at the standings last week, and if the Preds do continue to play well, maybe they clinch early, which, my God, what a luxury that would be. But, yeah, I think with what Annunen proved to you last week, I wouldn't mind even seeing him go tonight against the Devils. And you bring Saros back Saturday against the Canadiens and Annunen Sunday in the back-to-back against Tampa. And then you go to California for 4 games in, 6 days. There's a back-to-back in there. So I think Annunen gets 2 on the Western road trip, maybe 1 in the back-to-back and then 1 other. And then you come back for 3 home games. If you need to win all of those, you start Saros in all of those. And if things are taken care of, then you can start Annunen in the finale. And I mean, that would be 5 of the last 11 for Annunen, which is probably more than they would ever do. But look, I think Annunen proved something to everybody. And the team knew he was capable of that, but he's never gotten a chance to make the type of starting goal that a number 1 would make with the Preds. And he did it, and it went great. And it seems like Saros is good, but him and Connor Hellebuck are the only 2 goalies who did not get a breath this season. Those are the only guys who played 6 games in the Olympics. I guess Hellebuck did get a game off, actually. So Saros played even more than he did. And look, there's transatlantic travel in there. It's playoff hockey for 2.5 weeks in the Olympics. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that all of this happened, as long as the flare-up doesn't return. That it's a reason to say, hey, let's not push Juice too hard. We want to make sure we have him going into the playoffs, because, I mean, the last time the Preds were in a type of spot like this 4 years ago, it felt like they were hot. They were going in as a wild card team. They had 2 guys pushing 40 goals and reaching 40 goals. They were going to be the 8th seed, and then Saros got hurt, and they got swept. So it's something to keep your eye on for sure.
It is funny the way the sentiment around the Predators has changed in just the last week and a half, where the Predators have won 5 straight and everybody else they're competing with is on a losing streak. And you can say things like that of maybe the Predators will clinch early, which is kind of crazy to think of, considering where this team was even 10 days ago, coming back from that long road trip. They've really put themselves in a really good spot right now. Obviously, still some work to do, but you feel like you have a little bit of cushion in that wild card 2 spot right now.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they haven't played their best yet gives a reason for further optimism.
Yeah,
because they're building right now, and I still don't think they're near a top team the way they're playing, but they're definitely the best of the bunch. And I think that's going to be good enough to get them in, unless they fall totally flat. So, look, they hold serve here, and they have 3 straight games against Eastern Conference teams. The Devils are playing well. They are not a playoff team. They've won 4 of 5. They're playing well. Jack Hughes is hot. They're here tonight. Then the Canadiens and Lightning are competing with each other for seeding, divisions, and a playoff spot. Nothing is assured for those teams. Those are tough games. And then you have the road trip against the Western teams that are fighting with you, and in the case of the Ducks, fighting for their division. So everybody's going for something, and the Preds have been able to prove with head-to-head wins against the Kraken, with the Sharks, with Vegas, who's slipping. Like, they have been the hungrier team against teams that should be just as hungry as they are. And that really makes me feel good about where they're at.
Yep, 11 games to go, and you try and guard against looking ahead, but you look at those first 3 games of April, Kings, Sharks, Kings, it does feel like that could be the stretch that the Preds can either pull away, or this ends up being really tight down the stretch as these teams battle for wild card 2.
Yeah, those could be games where you bury the team you're playing. If the Sharks don't
Right.
turn it around, I mean, the Kings lose in overtime, so they keep picking up overtime points, so they're not dead yet. They're 3 points behind the Preds with the same amount of games, but they really don't look great. I think they should be better, but they just made a coaching change. We haven't seen them play in person in a long time, so I'm a little curious what's going on there. But looking at the Sharks, like watching that game Tuesday, the Preds held Macklin Celebrini without a point. And the way that team is structured right now, Macklin Celebrini is one of the best players in the league in his second season. Will Smith is a really good running mate for him. But with those guys on the same line together, if you can throw O'Reilly, Evangelista, and Stamkos at them, and they're able to limit them like they did in that game, I think that's a good matchup for the Preds, because the Sharks don't have any goaltending either. So that's the thing that's helping the Preds through this, is they, if nothing else, are tied for the best goaltending out of this group, with Saros and Hellebuck pretty even right now. Hellebuck's playing well. It hasn't been enough to get the Jets all the way back out of the hole they were in. And then I think the other goalie you look at is Utah. And I think that's the thing that could prevent the Preds from catching Utah, which they have a shot to do. And that's something you'd really have your eyes on, because then you get to play in the Pacific Division in the first round instead of having to go through probably the Avs and the Stars in the first 2 series, which I don't think that's a reasonable ask for any team to beat both of those teams in a row. Like I don't think even the Wild are capable of that. So if you can get to Utah, that would be huge. But I'm a big Vejmelka fan, their goalie. So I don't know if the Preds have better goaltending in that matchup. But yeah, that's going to be a big game at the end of that California trip. They go to Salt Lake City for the last road game of the season on April 9th, and we'll see where everybody sits then. But that could be the game where the Predators have a chance to get into the weaker bracket.
Yeah, you mentioned it, and I think that's where the eyes start to turn now that the Predators have pulled themselves into wild card 2, and the way that they're playing is, all right, can you make yourself a little more dangerous in the playoffs by getting to wild card 1? And again, like you said, it's nothing against the Predators to say that going Colorado and Dallas to get to the Western Conference Finals is not an easy path. You're playing basically the best division in hockey if you're on that side of the bracket, and the worst division in hockey on the other side of the bracket. That's going to be a huge development down the stretches if Nashville can catch Utah.
Yeah, and Anaheim is winning the Pacific right now. So if it's Preds Ducks first round, I think the Preds are the more proven team out of those two.
Yep.
And the Ducks have added some veteran guys there. They have veteran defensemen. They have John Carlson now from the Capitals. But I mean, if you could be a wild card team and not have to face in the first round, you don't have to face the Avs, the Stars, the Wild, the Oilers, or the Golden Knights in the first round, while there are 2 series with those teams taking on each other. That's just like, I don't know, that's playoff matchup madness. Like how is that even possible? And I mean, the answer is just that Edmonton and Vegas aren't performing the way they should, and the playoff format is a little bonkers.
No, you're 100% right. That if I had to look at the 6 teams that are currently in and not in the wild card spots right now of who would be the preferred matchup for the Predators in the first round, I think it would be Anaheim. Just because Edmonton and Vegas, obviously, you know what they have the playoff pedigree in the past. And then anybody out of the Central Division, I don't think I'd want to touch right now. So I think Anaheim might be the ideal matchup for the Predators in the first round. And there's an opportunity to get there if they finish strong down the stretch, especially on that West Coast road trip, playing many of the teams that they're competing directly with. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have any questions for Max, you can get those in on our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll continue talking Preds for the rest of the opening hour Hour with Max. It is also opening day around baseball. Jeff Hem is going to join us at 10:30 to get ready for baseball season and the sound season, which starts tomorrow on the road. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Max Herz, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Tee it up with us at the 5th annual 615 Open, May 28th at Hermitage Golf Course. We are once again supporting Folds of Honor to help them fund life-changing scholarships for families of America's fallen heroes. Register now to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Jake Lyman, Max Herz, Parker Kelly with you. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Been a fun first 30 minutes of the show talking Preds with Max. And Max, a couple of housekeeping notes. The Preds were able to get their restricted free agents figured out this week, keeping Zach LaRue and Fedor Svechkov on some 2-year deals. What do you think those deals and how that worked out for Barry Trotz getting ready for the offseason?
Yeah, no-brainers to get those done. Those are guys who have come up. They're playing well right now. They're starting to fit roles and find roles. And, I mean, to give them the assurance and the little push down the stretch that, hey, you're not going to have to even think about it this summer as an RFA is great for both of them. And Zach, both these guys are hilarious, first of all. Zach LaRue was very quick to point out. I asked because they put the release out on his contract, and I saw the dollar value, and I wasn't sure if it was per year or the total value of the contract. And he was very quick to point out that he took league minimum both years because it's that team-friendly of a deal, and he loves it here so much. So that's why it's not an even number, but it is the total number because the league minimum is going up year by year. So I thought that was pretty funny that, like, yeah, I'll take league min. And, I mean, think about it. Like, by the end of 2 seasons from now, Zach LaRue will have completed his, hopefully, 4th year as an NHLer. Like, that could be a real bargain for that contract if he turns into a middle six winger that really provides something for the Preds. Not that he would have wanted that much more, but it's a league minimum contract. So ultimate team-friendly deal. And then Fedor Svechkov, $1.25 million a year for the next 2 years. If he continues to improve, then that's a really great salary for a center, even if he's the 4th-line center, which he is right now. So, yeah, those are easy deals for your homegrown guys. And look, this generation of Preds picks that we're seeing right now, they're going to have an opportunity to make a name for themselves in a way that the guys who came before them had and couldn't. Like, Phil Tomasino is a guy who has similar draft pedigree to those two and never stepped up and never became a big scorer in the NHL. And now he's in the AHL for a different team. So it's time for these guys to prove it. And if they don't, the contracts are small enough that it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, I think those are easy moves.
No, I liked it too. I think you've seen, especially from LaRue since he came up, you've seen the addition that he can be for this team. And you also see us from Svechkov since he came back up. They had to send him down earlier on, but you've started to see him step up for this team. So good to see that. For the Predators, they are gearing up, trying to get into the postseason for the first time in 2 years. And Matthew in Nashville has texted in, and it's kind of a harder question than it sounds. He says, how many games do the Mammoth have to lose the rest of the season and the Predators have to win to leapfrog them for wild card 1? He says, for example, if the Capitals beat Utah tonight and the Predators take care of business, could we in theory jump them? 3 points back and do have a head-to-head. So it does feel like it would be tough for the Predators to leapfrog Utah, but definitely not impossible the way they're playing right now.
Well, you do control your own destiny with it because the Preds have one more game remaining than the Mammoth do, and they have a head-to-head game. So, I mean, if the Preds win every game, they will pass them no matter what happens. They're probably not going to win every game because that would be a 16-game winning streak to end the season. I'd take that. That would be pretty cool. But basically, you control your own destiny. But yeah, with all the overtime losses and the 3-point games, the math, like, I don't know. Like, I don't even like magic number in hockey that much because it's a magic number of points, not like magic number in baseball for clinching for wins and losses. So, yeah, it's a long way from anything being clinched. I would expect it to come down to the last game, either for the Preds to know if they're in or not, or to know where they are for wild card 1, wild card 2. With the way they've set this up, there's so much up and down movement, and that's why they haven't changed this playoff format, which has a lot of flaws, and there have been a lot of complaints about it, especially this year, with the discrepancies between the good teams being in a lot of the same divisions. But the reason the NHL loves it is because there's so much maneuvering that can go on between the wild cards and the division spots. Like, it's not just one line. You're potentially in 3 different lines for trying to get in, trying to get a wild card, and trying to get into the top 3 in your division. And then there's home ice and all of that. So, like, the way the East is shaking out right now with Columbus, the Islanders, and the Penguins, those teams are all within a couple points of each other. One of those teams is going to have home ice in the first round in the 2-3 in the Metropolitan Division. One of those teams is going to be third in their division, playing that team that has home ice in the first round. And then the last team could be 9th in the East and miss the playoffs, or they could be ahead of the Bruins and the other teams from the Atlantic Division that are in the wild card. So basically, they're competing with like 8 teams at once for 5 different places. So that's why the NHL loves this. And that's why I don't think it's going to change. I still think the format is flawed just because of the 2 and 3 matchups in the divisions repeating over and over and over. And if the divisional rivalry is such a big deal, then we need more divisional games during the regular season. There are fewer divisional games during the regular season than there have ever been in the NHL because of the cross-conference travel, which is great. I still think you should go every place once a year. But the fact that the Predators went to Edmonton more than they went to Dallas this year is insane. So I think you really need to invest in the divisional rivalries in the regular season, because the playoff rivalries are going to be rivalries no matter what. Like, in the 2010s, how great was Blackhawks Canucks every year? Like, that's the one that sticks out to me in my head.
Right.
That's not a division game. That's not a regional rivalry game. So I think they have the playoffs as a weapon that no matter who plays each other in the playoffs, it's going to be great. So I don't think you need divisional games in the playoffs to make those rivalries. But that's why the NHL likes the jumbled mess.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's definitely not an ideal playoff format, but you know, the Preds can certainly take advantage of the way that it's formatted if they're able to get to wild card 1 and take on the Pacific Division instead of the Central, which has just been a gauntlet so far this season. Max, quickly did want to hit on Luke Evangelista, because I feel like he's been a little bit of an unsung hero for this team this year, second on the team in assists, and he did get a goal back on Tuesday night. Just what have you seen from him specifically and his growth this season after a little bit of a disappointing year last year? He seems to have stepped up and been a really key cog in this Preds machine over the last few weeks.
Yeah, he quietly has made his career a long-term reality this year. I think coming out of last year, he was somebody who I thought, hey, it's time to really stand up and confirm that you are an NHLer and that you are a long-term homegrown Pred. And the guys who he came up with, most of them are gone. And the fact that he is someone who now is here to stay with how well he's played this year is admirable. And for him to be in the top 6 for really the first time, he had to earn it to get there. And it's experience that's gotten him there, because he's played so well defensively. He's been a playmaker. He's changed his game a little bit this year. He has his moments where he scores. He has 10 goals now in 71 games. But it's not the first thing he's looking to do. And I think that variance in his game is what's put him over the top, and the defensive ability is what's clinched him in the top 6. So it feels like he belongs in the top 6, but we got to remember, this is his first season really as an everyday top 6 player.
No, it's true. And he has stepped up in a big way, helped out this team. Again, 39 assists this year, just the 10 goals, but he has been a key piece of this Preds lineup. Quickly to the text line, 8566 says, okay, you two are now commissioner and you need to change the playoff format. What is ideal? Max, for me, it would be just seeding them 1 through 8 in each conference. Would that be your solution as well?
I would change the divisions up. I would change everything up. You got me?
Yeah, we got you now.
Okay. I would change the divisions up. I don't know. Am I allowed to include that in my answer? I would change everything.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would make it like more regional than time zone based, which was their thinking with the current divisions when the Thrashers went to Winnipeg. Like, right. I think you need to you need to make like pockets. So I haven't fully fleshed out who would be where when I've thought about this, but the Preds would be with like the Stars, the Blues, the Blackhawks, and then you go south, they're with the Hurricanes, the Panthers, the Lightning, and the future team in Atlanta. And if you need more, you rope in Columbus, but it's geographically ranked based on who you play how many times. So all that controls is who you play in my head. It doesn't control anything about the playoffs. The playoffs are league wide.
Oh, okay. So you're thinking like 16 teams make it and you seed 1 through 16.
Yeah. Look, if Nashville can go to Vancouver for the first round, anyone can go anywhere for any round.
It's a good point. It's a good point. I kind of like it that, get rid of the conference affiliation and basically just say, hey, if you're the best team in the NHL, you're going to play the 16th best team in the NHL in the opening round of the playoffs, and they'll roll through like that. I don't hate it. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. You can text or call our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We've got one more segment with Max on this Thursday morning here on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, joined by Max Herz from Preds Radio. Parker Kelly at the controls. Max with us for one more segment here on your Thursday morning. Preds getting ready to take on the New Jersey Devils tonight. 7 o'clock puck drop, 6 o'clock pregame right here on 102.5 The Game. Max, looking at these next three, you got three Eastern Conference opponents. Then you head into that stretch for the final 8 games where it's basically against all the teams that you're competing directly with. But these next 3 games, just as important as any other, starting tonight with the Devils.
Yeah, Devils are playing pretty well the last few weeks. They don't have a ton to play for. They are really, really on the outside looking in the East. So I'm interested to see what they look like.
Me too. And I think these next 2 games specifically important. The Predators get a couple of home games, and then you've got 6 straight on the road. You don't come back home until April 11th. So feels like these next 2 at Bridgestone Arena, important to stockpile a few more points and continue to spread out that lead for that second wild card spot.
Yeah, and the Canadians are a good team. I like them. So that's a tough matchup Saturday, and then you got a back-to-back with travel and short rest going into a game 4 o'clock on Sunday in Tampa against the Lightning, who are, I think, the best coach team in the league. Nikita Kucherov is playing the best he ever has right now, and you have all the emotion of that with Steven Stamkos returning. It'll only be a second time back, and that's always going to be a special occasion, however many times Stamkos gets to return to Tampa with the Preds for the rest of his career. So, yeah, three games in 4 days that all present different challenges. Going to be 2 great crowds here. Crowd was awesome again on Tuesday. Expecting another sellout tonight. You know, a lot of people want to see Jack Hughes play after scoring the golden goal. A lot of people want to see him play anyway. And tonight is a game the Preds have to win for sure. This is your last game against a non-playoff team. So a definite non-playoff team. So this is one you have to get. You've been beating all the teams around you. So this is a bit of a different challenge against a team that, like I said, is playing better.
Yes, big one tonight against the Devils. Again, 7 o'clock puck drop. And we talked about it last week. It is Vanderbilt night, is it not?
It is. Yeah, it's Vanderbilt night. It's also Pride night. So
there you go.
I don't know if there are any Vandy ticket packages still available, but you got to get the ticket package to get the Vandy shirt.
Right. You mentioned that last week, that it is a special ticket package, but excited for that. Again, get out to Bridgestone Arena. This team playing great hockey right now. Go out and support them. Let's get to one more text here before we let Max go. Justin from Greenbrier says, Max, do you think the Preds can get over their tendency of playing down to their opponents if they do get past Utah for wild card 1?
Read that again. Sorry.
He says, do you think the Preds can get over their tendency to playing down to their opponents if they do get past Utah for wild card 1? I mean, I would say in general, the Predators haven't really been playing down to their opponents lately, although maybe that was an issue earlier on in the season.
He might also be talking about falling behind early in games, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, look, they beat the Blackhawks, who are a non-playoff team, and that was the back end of a back-to-back for the Preds, and it wasn't a back-to-back for the Blackhawks, so I think they brought it that game. The overtime loss in Vancouver a couple weeks ago still hurts. That's one that should have been an extra point. So I think that falls in the category he's talking about. I don't know. I mean, they're not really playing anybody who they'd be playing down to the rest of the season. So if anything, that helps, right?
Well, and I would say, like, I think he's saying to Anaheim, like, you get into the playoffs, everybody's good enough to be there. So I don't think you'd have to worry about that once you get into the bracket. So Predators currently holding wild card 2 and trying to get up to wild card 1 with 11 games to go in the season. Max, before we let you get out of here, it is opening day. I wanted to get your thoughts on your Pirates this season.
Hey, the best part about being a Pirates fan right now, you get to watch 5 innings a week, and then you get to do whatever you want the rest of the time once Paul Skeens comes out of the game.
I think the Pirates might actually be pretty decent this year. Like they've at least made some sort of investment in the offense to try and get better. But you know, we'll see. Maybe Connor Griffin coming up in a couple of weeks will help out that team too.
God, I hope it's in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it, Jake. I'm on the Vandy women's basketball hype train right now.
Yes, yes. I know you were out at the game on Monday.
Yeah, it was awesome to get to go as a fan, and I'm glad we got the day game tomorrow. So I'll be watching and listening to you tomorrow afternoon, and then let's go get UConn Sunday. Let's do it.
Yes, yes. It's going to be a fun weekend out here. Notre Dame going to be tough tomorrow. They've got Hannah Hidalgo, so going to be a great matchup with her and Michaela. But yeah, it's exciting. Hopefully, chance to play UConn or North Carolina on Sunday, and then we'll see. Maybe I'll be talking to you live from Phoenix next week.
Yes. Hey, why did Notre Dame get a 6 seed if they have one of the best players? I've been meaning to ask you.
So they kind of had to rebuild around Hannah Hidalgo this year. They lost a lot from last season, a couple WNBA draft picks. Olivia Miles transferred to TCU. So they got off to a little bit of a slow start, especially in ACC play, but they've picked it up as of late. But I think 6 seed was probably about where they should have been, but definitely not a team to look past. They've got a lot of talent.
Well, I'm looking past them. I'm ready to give UConn a push.
I can't afford to do that, but yes, I am hoping that we get a matchup with the Huskies on Sunday, and hopefully Shay the student can become the teacher on Sunday and move on to the Final Four. Max, always appreciate you coming on. We will be listening tonight pregame at 6:00 on 102.5 The Game. Predators trying to keep it rolling, get their 6th straight win against the Devils.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Parker. Go Doors.
Maxers joining us live from Bridgestone Arena. And again, the Preds continuing their 3-game homestand tonight against the Devils. 6:00 pregame, 7:00 puck drop. Preds have been fun lately. We'll talk more about the Preds later on in the show. But coming up next, we will start off hour number 2 talking Titans. The draft season continues to roll along. Is there one prospect that we moved on from a little bit too quickly for the Titans at number 4? We will talk about it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, the game, second hour on this Thursday. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Big thanks to Max Herz for joining us a day early than he typically does. We shuffled things around. TD is up there at Citi Field for opening day. The New York Mets taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates today. So we'll have TD back on the show next week. But big thanks to Max for joining us in the first hour. We will have Jeff Hem, the voice of the Nashville Sounds, at 10:30, talking about opening day and the Sound season, which opens up tomorrow in Norfolk, Virginia. But let's talk some Titans here, Parker. There is one prospect that I think we talked about a lot early on in the draft process, but moved on from pretty quickly and don't really talk about him as an option at number 4 anymore. And I'm not talking about Ruben Bain. I'm talking about Carnell Tate. And with Carnell Tate, I don't believe he's worthy of a top 5 pick, but he went through his pro day yesterday and there was a lot of buzz around him online. I saw a couple of tweets. Marcus Mosher, I think, who covers the Cowboys, says the Titans or Commanders drafting a running back over a wide receiver like Tate would be hilarious. I also saw an article from ESPN that put out there and said that he would be ranked above Emeka Egbuka and Chris Olave if you're looking at the last 5 or 6 Ohio State wide receivers to come out. So my question is, did we move on from Carnell Tate too quickly as an option at number 4? I don't think he's going to be the guy, but maybe he deserves to be in the conversation a little bit more than he has been.
Yeah, I think it's fair that he could be above Chris Olave or Emeka Egbuka. And, you know, Emeka Egbuka has only played 1 year and had a little bit of injury trouble. So we don't really know what his career is going to look like. But would you feel comfortable taking Chris Olave with the 4th overall pick?
Right. The 4th pick is steep. And this was the article. It's from Matt Miller, who covers the draft for ESPN. He ranked the 6 recent first rounders out of Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr., number 1, Jackson Smith and Jigba, number 2. And I believe this is just as a prospect. This isn't how they've done so far, because obviously JSN would be number 1. Garrett Wilson, 3, then Carnell Tate, 4, ahead of Olave and Egbuka. So that shows you that there's belief Carnell Tate is going to be a really solid player, but I also don't think that means he's worthy of a top 5 pick. I liked Corey Davis coming out, but I think that would kind of be what you're doing, is you're taking a first-round wide receiver and taking him in the top 5 when he probably is more of a top 15 type pick.
Yeah, and if Jeremiah Love is there at 4, which I believe that he will be, I also believe he's the best player in the draft, regardless of position. So I don't think it would be wise for the Titans to take Carnell Tate over a Jeremiah Love, because I know it's so easy to compare Carnell Tate to his Ohio State teammate and Jeremiah Smith, and we all know what Jeremiah Smith is at this point. But the only receiver that I'm comfortable even considering in the top 10 in this year's draft is Mekhi Lemon. That is the only one. And even then, I don't know if I would take Mekhi Lemon with the top 10 pick. I definitely think he's a top 15 guy, but it's such a reach to consider drafting one of those guys at 4. If Jeremiah Love is there, that's the pick in my mind, because he's the best player in the draft and you're getting him at number 4.
I am getting very frustrated with this draft because I think there are a lot of top 15 picks, right? Like, I think that there are a lot of guys you feel comfortable taking in the top half of the first round, but none of them are blue chip, run to the podium and take that guy type of guys. Like even David Bailey and Arvell Reese, who I think are going to go 2 and 3. I don't think they're prototypical top 5 draft picks. I think they're top 10, top 15 guys, but they're being elevated because this draft class lacks the top end talent. That doesn't mean it's a bad draft class. I think it's a deep draft class with a lot of talent at wide receiver and edge and cornerback that you can find into day 2, but it's lacking the star power. And that's why it's kind of frustrating to have the 4th overall pick if you're the Titans, where a lot of these guys aren't top 5 talents. They're top 15 talents, and you have to take one at 4.
Well, that's why it's important too, because we can get so into talking about these guys just to not overthink it. Because if you know that there are a lot of top 15 picks, and I'm telling you, the belly of the draft, your rounds 2 through 4, that's where you're going to
Right.
get the most value, because I'd say prospects anywhere from 40 to 75, it doesn't matter where you draft them in between that range, you're getting about the same kind of impact player, just because NIL and transfer portal is keeping these guys in school a lot longer, so it's delaying the time that they declare for the NFL draft. That's where you're going to get really good value. But it's so important for the Titans to not overthink this at 4, because if you have a bona fide guy that you believe is going to be a superstar, you take him.
No, and I agree with that, and that's why I think I've come around on Jeremiah Love, and I think that he might be the most valuable pick you could make at 4, just based on what's going to be there. Now, I would take Bailey over him, but that's probably about it. Like, I think Arvell Reese, you have red flags just based on production. Ruben Bain, of course, the length issues is going to be a problem. So I struggle with it because, like, 2 years ago, let's look back at the 2024 draft class. There were legitimate top 5 talents everywhere in that class. Whether it's the quarterbacks, you had Williams and Daniels and May, and then you had Marvin Harrison Jr. and Joe Alton, Malik Neighbors. All of those guys you looked at and said they would be top 5 picks in just about any draft you could pull up. This year, there just isn't that type of guy, which you need a partner, but that's why my favorite scenario for the Titans is trading down, because I think you could list off 10 names that the Titans take at 10, 11, or 12, and I would be thrilled with it, especially picking up more draft capital later in this year's draft or maybe in next year's draft. But just sticking and picking and taking any of these guys at 4 doesn't exactly thrill me.
And I think the only way that because it's okay to mention the trade back, but you also got to have a dance partner, which, to be honest, I don't know if it's incredibly likely that that's going to happen. Now, there sure is a lot of smoke around Jeremiah Love, and we know Adam Schefter said that the Commanders were really interested. I think either Field Yates or Mel Kiper, one of the mock drafts, had Jeremiah Love going to 7 to the Commanders. If that's legitimate, then maybe there's a trade back option for the Titans there. But outside of that scenario, I don't really see a whole lot of trade back options.
Well, I just wonder too, like, how often, let's say in the last 15 years, because obviously 20, 25 years ago, the game was different and you would give up more draft capital to go get a running back. But it's very rare to see a team not only take a running back in the top 10, but trade up to get a running back in the top 10. So I do wonder if maybe there isn't going to be much of a market if Love is the guy. Maybe there's a team that wants to move up for Caleb Downs. I know that the Giants have been smitten a little bit with Downs. Harbaugh said he thinks that Downs is a potential future Hall of Famer, and they were talking at his pro day yesterday at Ohio State. So I do wonder if there is somebody to trade up, maybe it would be for Downs instead of Love. Safety, not exactly a premium position as well, but I do, just based on what we've seen historically, teams aren't going to give up premium draft capital in a trade to come up and get a running back.
I'm beginning to get a little fatigued too, the positional value stuff. Just because that Ohio State Pro Day, you have aliens just walking around that facility, whether it's Arvell Reese or Caleb Downs or Carnell Tate, Sonny Styles, all these guys, even Lorenzo Styles is an absolute freak. I mean, they're just breeding in that building. I think it can be so easy to look at the positions and be like, well, we need this, we can't afford to take this. The Titans are, and that's why I'm coming around so much on this Jeremiah Love thing, because it matters, but it doesn't matter at the same time. You just need good football players. So I'm beginning to throw a lot of this positional value stuff out the window. If Jeremiah Love is there, you take him. It's really that simple to me.
Well, especially if David Bailey is gone, there's not really a blue chip guy at a more valuable position to go get. Like, unless you fall in love with like Francis Mauigoa and you think he's going to be your left tackle of the future, which I don't think is the case. But like, that would be a guy at a premium position. But outside of that, the players that you would take are either positionless. Arvell Reese, you don't really know exactly what he is. Ruben Bain, you don't know if he's going to be able to play inside or outside. So those guys, I don't think you can put them and say that is a bona fide pass rusher, blue chip guy. And then you've got inside linebacker Sonny Styles, safety Caleb Downs, running back Jeremiah Love. So I'm kind of with you of like positional value. Yes, it matters, but not when none of the guys who are available to you who are worthy of that pick play a valuable position. So God, I wish the Titans could trade back. I really do, because I think picking up another couple of top 100 draft picks and getting one of these guys would be the most value you could get for that fourth pick. I would love Ruben Bain at 10. I would love Carnell Tate or Mekhi Lemon at 10. I don't love any of those guys at 4. And that's the issue with this draft is there's a lot of really talented players, but none of the elite blue chip guys that you wait to come out of school for, like Jeremiah Smith next year. Like, there's none of those guys, and that's what makes it frustrating when this team has the 4th overall pick.
And when you're in that position, you just take the best available football player. So are you saying if Jeremiah Love is there at 4, you'd rather have a trade back option?
Yeah, I would rather trade back and possibly lose out on Jeremiah Love than take him at 4. I would rather trade back, and then you can take Lemon or Tate or Bain or Downs or Styles, whoever it is that I think they're like Mike Borgonzi said it last year and this is, I think, the philosophy of most GMs is if there's a cluster of guys that you value pretty similarly, you are good to trade back and you're okay with it. If there's one guy that you think is a tier above the rest, you go on and take him and you don't trade back. I view a lot of these guys available to the Titans at 4 the same. And so if you move back 5 or 6 spots, I think you're still going to get a similarly talented player as you would get at 4. You'd also just add to your draft capital. So that's why I think trading back would be the ideal scenario. I just don't know if that's going to be feasible.
I kind of group. I mean, there's a group of people that I think if you draft them, they will make an instant impact. That's Jeremiah Love. That's Caleb Downs. That is Sonny Styles, David Bailey. And I also like both of the tackles from Miami and Utah. But
yeah,
I think what would help Cam Ward the most and what would make the most sense is Jeremiah Love. Because you're getting a guy that is one of my favorite terms, right? A playmaker. Because not only is he a phenomenal running back, and not only does he have that home run speed, and not only does he have that incredible contact balance, but you can also get him involved in the screen game. He can go out to the slot. The motions can distract the defense. So I think there's so many ways, and quarterbacks have a lot of best friends, and one of those is having a great run game. So I think you get Jeremiah Love. I believe that he will make an instant impact. I believe that he will be a fantastic pro football player, and you help Cam Ward. You help out your rookie quarterback.
I think I would agree with you that if David Bailey's off the board and you're sitting there at 4 and don't have a trade partner, I think Jeremiah Love should be the pick. But I would explore every avenue to trade back if there are any offers on the table to try and add a few more top 100 picks. And I think you're still getting a similarly talented player as long as you're not moving back 20 spots. Like if you're moving back into the top 15, I think you're getting a similar type of player, value of player at that spot. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll get to some of your texts on the other side. Talking Titans here on this Thursday morning. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on your Thursday morning. We're talking Titans, the draft approaching quickly, less than a month away. Titans picking 4th overall. And we're having the conversation around a lot of top 15 picks in this draft, but not a lot of top 5 level guys. And that leaves the Titans in a tough situation where you may be taking the best player available, but it's not what you would typically expect in terms of value from the 4th overall pick. Carnell Tate is the name that I brought up because we kind of moved off of him quickly. Early on in the draft process, once the regular season was over, I think the conversation was, all right, are the Titans going to go edge or wide receiver at number 4? And Tate was one of the top names up there, but it became apparent quickly that Carnell Tate was not viewed as a top 5 pick. There was a little bit of a change yesterday after his pro day. I saw some experts up there saying that this guy might be worth a top 5 pick. I'll be interested to see where Carnell Tate goes. I think the two most interesting guys in this draft are Ruben Bain and Jordan Tyson. I said that earlier this week, just because of the red flags with them, and I want to know how far they're going to slide. But I think Carnell Tate is an interesting one too, because Ohio State wide receivers, usually pretty safe, but is he really in that same tier as some of the guys we've seen in the past? I'll be interested to see who takes Carnell Tate and how high he goes.
Yeah, and you can't go wrong with drafting Ohio State receivers. You just can't, because Brian Hartline has been one of the best recruiters in college football, one of the best developers of the wide receivers. They haven't had very many misses at the wide receiver position. Now, for Jordan Tyson, there is absolutely some concern there with the injury history. I'm not going to gloss over that. I think if you get a healthy Jordan Tyson and you get him as a top, if the Dolphins take him at 11, I think there's extreme value there for sure, no doubt. It is just very interesting, though, because the elite level talent in this draft is probably not what it was in previous years. I still think there are some playmakers, though, that are worth a top 5 pick. Probably not as many, but there are certainly some available.
No, and I would agree with that. I think there are good players in this draft. And like we talked about, I think it's a deep draft, and the Titans should be able to find day 1 starters on day 2 at 35 and 66. But at 4, it's just disappointing to look at this draft and not say at 4 that there's a slam dunk guy that's going to be there. And that is a little bit strange, but they're going to have good options. Sonny on the text line says kind of what we've been talking about. It feels like the Titans have had a bit of bad luck. These last 2 drafts have not had a ton of top end talent. And for the Titans, you got the number 1 quarterback last year. So I would say it wasn't bad luck last season. Yeah, maybe you'd rather have had the number 1 pick in the Caleb Williams draft. But with Cam Ward, there were other teams who wanted to take him 1st overall. So I wouldn't necessarily say that, but yes, this year I think there are plenty of other drafts where having the 4th overall pick would have gotten you a much better player. Richie from White House on the text line says, let's say the Titans select either Jeremiah Love or Sonny Styles with the 4th pick. How far down do you guys think Ruben Bain will fall in the draft, and which team would be the one to pull the trigger on him with his short arms? That I don't really know. Like, I could see Bain going really anywhere, right? Like, I could see him going high. If there is a team that says we don't care about the arm length, we're going to take him and bet on the production that we saw in college. It could totally happen in the top 5. If I had to guess, I think he goes borderline top 10. I would say somewhere between 8 and 12, somebody will take a shot on Ruben Bain, which it tells you how good of a player Ruben Bain is that he's projected to go inside the top 12 when, as we've talked about, no one with sub 31-inch arms as a pass rusher has gone in the 1st round in 20 years. So I think there is going to be a team that bets on it and says, you know what, Ruben Bain's going to be a good football player, and we're going to get value with our 10th pick, 11th pick, 12th pick. But I do think some of the teams in the top 5 are going to go with more sure things than Ruben Bain, and I think the Titans are included in that.
I think Ruben Bain will be a top 10 pick. I could see him going to Cincinnati at number 10 because they need all the defensive help they can get. Forget the short arms, man. Just watch him play in the college football playoff. But Yeah, I think Ruben Bain will still be a top 10 pick, and it's so easy to get scared by the history. Now, there is the saying, and I don't remember who said this, but those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. So
Yeah.
with the Sonny Styles thing, I think there have only been 4 or 5 off-ball linebackers that have been signed to a second contract by the team that drafted them. So if you're looking at Sonny Styles, knowing that, that probably scares you. But at the same time, if you would just watch him play and you watch the missed tackle rate, which by the way was zero, had 0 missed tackles last year, and he's just a good football player, you take him and you forget history, you know? So I think that it is so easy, paralysis by analysis, remember, to get scared off by some of these guys.
Yeah, and I saw that tweet too. Paul Kaharski did quote tweet this one from Marcus Mosher. There have been 29 off-ball linebackers drafted in round 1 since 2009. Only 4 signed a second contract. Luke Kuechly, you'd take Luke Kuechly for sure. Dante Hightower, good player. Leighton Vander Esch, if it wasn't for the injuries, I think he probably might still be playing. And then Brian Cushing in 2009. So that's it. 4 out of 29. So you do have to look at history. But with Bain and with Styles, you also look and say that those are probably good players. Are they worth a top 5 pick? That is the question, and that's what Mike Borgonzi is tasked with over the next month. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. All of our football offseason coverage is brought to you by Tennessee Brewworks, the official craft beer of the football offseason on ESPN 1025 The Game. It is opening day across Major League Baseball, and we will have Jeff Hemp join us on the other side. Minor League Baseball opens up tomorrow. The Nashville Sounds in Norfolk to take on the Tides. They will be back at First Horizon Park on Tuesday. We will talk Sounds. We will talk baseball with Jeff Hemp when we come back. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. It is opening day across Major League Baseball today. The minor league season gets going tomorrow, and we are pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by the voice of the Nashville Sounds, Jeff Hem, as the Sounds are headed to Norfolk to start off their season. Jeff, thanks for taking some time this morning, and excited for you to start off the season in our favorite stadium down there at Harbor Park.
That's right. You've been there many times, Jake. It's good to be with you. And tomorrow night, I'll bring folks the sights and sounds of opening day. Today, I bring you the sights and sounds from Nashville International Airport as we board here in a little bit.
I love it. I love it. The Sounds starting on the road. They'll be back at First Horizon Park on Tuesday for the home opener. Jeff, this is an exciting season for the Sounds. The Brewers ranked as the best farm system in all of baseball. You've got top 100 prospects on this roster, including Jet Williams, who joins. What's there to be excited about for this Sound season as it opens up tomorrow?
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm really excited about this team because of what we're told about this team, whether it's manager Rick Sweet or by the Brewers baseball operations department when we were out at spring training a couple of weeks ago. They are very high on this collective group, and there's even more coming from AA and the levels below as the season goes along. I look at it this way. I feel like the Brewers have what you want them to have, and from our perspective at AAA to have. It's the best of both worlds. A contending team at the big league level, a team that got to the NLCS last year, made some moves this offseason that they think can make them potentially even better, or certainly as good as they were last year. So they're expected to contend heavily for another division title at the major league level. And like you said, they've got the farm system. So a lot of times at the big league level, teams will have one or the other. But when you've got both, that's really the sweet spot, because the Brewers rely so heavily on that player development. The Sounds reap the benefits of that. You know, annually, we in Nashville have a great product on the field because of how the Brewers have to go about their business. And these last couple of years have felt even more, I would say, like connected. Like the AAA, the Sounds play like the Brewers more and more. They're built like the Brewers more and more, so that when guys are going up, there's not yes, there's a big jump in the level of baseball, but there's not expected for them to be some difference in how they play. They can truly just try to keep doing what they were doing at AAA. Speed and defense and pitching have been kind of the calling cards for the Brewers the last few years, and that's what the Sounds were built like last year. Now, having said that, there are some bats in the lineup, I think, for the Sounds early in the year that are expected to have some power too. Brock Wilken and Luke Adams are two prospects who are up from AA Biloxi for the opening day Sounds roster that have power. So it's not like the Brewers are immune to power. They've got some at the major league level, and they want to develop some too. But I know the Sounds are also really kind of licking their chops that they can break the stolen base record that they already shattered last year. I think fans are going to come to First Horizon Park and see a lot of running. And a lot of base stealing and creating havoc on the bases, because again, that's kind of what the Brewers do at the major league level, and they want to develop that at AAA. So I really, obviously opening day anytime brings excitement of a new season, but I think we in Nashville are excited about what the product is going to look like on the field, because the Brewers are excited about the product that they're going to have on the field up there and with us. And we know they're going to need Sounds players time and again. It's already happened today. Blake Perkins was at our media day yesterday. Now he's off to Milwaukee because Jackson Churio is going to miss a couple of weeks with a hand injury. So that carousel never stops. But the key is having the depth, and that's where I feel like the Brewers have set themselves up really well again this year to be successful up there, and for us to be successful on the field in Nashville.
100%. The Brewers are one of the few teams that has done a nice job of threading the needle, contending in the present, but still having the farm system for the future. And it makes it a whole lot easier when you've got a legendary manager like Rick Sweet down there. Top 5 all-time in minor league wins. How cool is it to have him back for another season and leading this Nashville Sounds team again?
Yeah, he's great to work with. He's great to observe. He's great to learn from, whether it's me as the broadcaster or a player. He creates that winning environment. Like you've been around him a little bit, Jake. Like
Yep.
at AAA, it's hard sometimes when you're trying to win a ball game that night at AAA, and the cards are sometimes stacked against you because of this reliever you can't use, or this starter just got pulled because the big league team needs him, or this outfielder just went up the day before, and you got a 28-man roster when you got 24 bodies or something. So like the cards are stacked against you. He embraces that challenge and still expects to win every game that he manages. And I think there's a trickle down to the dugout from that and to the clubhouse from that. It's like, okay, who cares that we got 24 guys? We could have 28. Like, let's go win a ball game. He understands the development part of it and like why they're there at AAA to supply the big league team, but he also is still going to expect to win the game that night. And that's really fun to kind of be around that environment. And he is just under 100 wins away from becoming minor league baseball's all-time winningest manager. If the Sounds have a very special season, he could get there this year. Every win will matter because it's 90 plus wins in a AAA season is not easily done. It has happened before. Could get there. Certainly the math is well in his favor. All things, God willing, to have him do it next year, but there's still a chance it could happen this year. He certainly can get into second place by the end of this year. So that'll be a fun thing to kind of monitor and keep track of as the season goes along for the Sounds, because he's closing in on he's already in elite territory. He's closing in on some extremely elite territory in an industry of minor league baseball that's been around for well over a century.
We're talking the voice of the Nashville Sounds, Jeff Him. Jeff, a number that I didn't really come to understand until the start of the World Baseball Classic, or a real staggering number. 31 former Nashville Sounds represented in the World Baseball Classic across 15 countries. And you were just talking about that, kind of the development aspect of all of this. How crazy is it that there were 31 Nashville Sounds in the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah, really special. And, part of from a purely Sounds standpoint, the way we in the front office try to kind of promote the team and remind people in Middle Tennessee of what they're seeing when they come to a Sounds game, part of it is celebrating what guys go on to do. We understand that if, what I call the casual fan comes to a Sounds game, they may not always know the entire roster or more than a couple of names, but they certainly will know what guys have gone on to do. And we want to remind them that, yeah, that guy played in Nashville, like a Matt Olson for the Braves when he was coming up with Oakland, or Matt Chapman now with the Giants. And back in the day when it was Prince Fielder and Ryan Braun, and now you've got Bryce Terang and Jacob Mizorowski and all these different guys. So part of our job is to make sure people around Middle Tennessee realize just how high a quality of baseball they're seeing when they come to a given Sounds game. And a lot of that is represented by what guys go on to do. And it's cool. In that 31 that you mentioned, a few of those guys are going to be Sounds when the official roster comes out in the next 24 hours. Tyler Black was with Team Canada. Freddie Zamora and Carlos Rodriguez were with Team Nicaragua. Carlos had done it a few years ago, and he just, like, the thrill of his career thus far to represent his country and to see his parents' joy in him representing that country. So we've got a few current Sounds who were in that WBC, and then a huge amount of them who are former Sounds. So really special to have that kind of a number, and it just speaks to what fans get to see when they come out to a game. AAA baseball is basically the second highest level of baseball in the world. And even if a guy hasn't become a household name yet at the big league level, or may never become a household name, their level of talent when they're playing at AAA is not to be diminished. They are incredibly talented. They just kind of haven't gotten there yet, or they haven't stuck there at the major league level. But that 31 former Sounds in the WBC is a very special thing.
All right, Jeff, I got to ask this because I know you're an Iowa guy. We're going to stray from baseball just for a quick second. But Iowa has Nebraska tonight in the Sweet 16. Yes. And if you would have told me that this would be a Sweet 16 matchup with an Elite Eight spot on the line in the preseason, I would have thought you're crazy. But here we are. What are your thoughts heading into this?
I would have agreed with you, Parker, all things being honest. I mean, I'm thrilled that we will get to Norfolk in plenty of time, knock on wood, that I'll be right where I need to be to watch that game tonight. I was not anticipating that having to be on my radar as the Sounds get ready to crank up the season. But man, what a game against Florida, and what a moment for Iowa basketball. Really cool. And they can beat Nebraska. They have beaten Nebraska already this year. So now it's like I would not have predicted. Nobody really would have predicted the Florida victory, but now it's like, well, Nebraska, that's a winnable game. And so you're talking about the potential of getting to the Elite Eight. It's just wild. And they beat Florida without having like a game of all games from Bennett Sturts, which, if you told me they're going to beat Florida, I would have told you Sturts probably has 32 points or something. So, yes, very exciting. I know everyone hearing this conversation is thrilled to hear my thoughts on Iowa basketball. It's top of mind for Middle Tennessee today, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. But yeah, it'll be fun to get to watch that game tonight, and a very winnable game for the Hawkeyes, so they could get to the Elite Eight, which is just crazy.
Definitely one of the cool stories of the tournament. Jeff, last one for you, and we'll let you go. The ABS Challenge system comes to Major League Baseball this year. As someone who's dealt with it for the last few years, what can baseball fans expect?
They can expect a wonderful addition to the game. My thoughts on this, Jake, and you've seen it in Sounds games play out. Like,
yep.
There's no negative. There's just no negative. It checks every box. And, if an MLB fan hasn't seen it yet at the AAA level, it will take them some getting used to. But there's nothing not to like. I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for the fan. I think it doesn't slow things down. It's quick. Everybody sees the same thing when they replay the simulation of the pitch. There's strategy to it. That's the biggest thing that I think is going to be really interesting at the major league level. The number 9 hitter in the second inning needs to be careful with nobody on base. Like the leverage of when to challenge, even if a guy in his heart of hearts is confident he can win that challenge, the risk is there early. I think MLB teams especially need to make sure they use those challenges in high leverage situations because, not every situation is equal. And I would expect MLB clubhouses and managers are going to set some kind of strict parameters around it. If it's, hey, don't challenge before the 5th inning, or you can only challenge with multiple men on base, whatever it is, because you burn those too early. It really becomes a big factor in how the game can play out. So, but from a fan standpoint, it's fabulous. There's nothing not to like about it. I'm a huge fan of MLB trying it out and now implementing it at the major league level. And it keeps the human element with the umpires and every player I ever talked to the last few years when I was sort of surveying their thoughts. They all liked the idea of keeping umpires as we know them and keeping their role largely as we know it. The human element, I think, was big for the players compared to the full ABS where the umpire doesn't call balls and strikes. So no negative for me. And I'm curious to see how the strategy part of it plays out at the big league level this year.
Me too. And I think it's a great addition, a perfect compromise to have the challenge system in place. And it's been at AAA. Now we'll see it at MLB coming up. I guess it's already underway. We had the opening night last night. Opening night for the Sounds tomorrow at Norfolk. It's a 5:35 Central Time first pitch. And then opening day at First Horizon Park on Tuesday against Charlotte. Jeff, thanks as always for taking some time. We will be listening and have a safe trip down to Norfolk.
Jake, thank you, and good luck to the Commodores tomorrow as well, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Jeff Hem, voice of the Nashville Sounds, joining us as the Sounds start their season tomorrow evening. We will react to what Jeff had to say and wrap up hour number 2 coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, finishing up hour number 2. Big thanks to Jeff Hem, the voice of the Nashville Sounds, for joining us in the last segment. Sounds start their season tomorrow night in Norfolk, back home for a full week-long series against Charlotte starting on Tuesday. And Parker, he talked about the ABS, the challenge system. I am so glad that that's coming to Major League Baseball this year. I agree with keeping the human element of the umpires in place and allowing catchers to frame pitches and all the stuff that's happened in the past. But there has to be a little bit of a safeguard against horrible calls deciding games. So I'm glad the challenge system is finally in place at the MLB level.
Yeah, and you got to see it a little bit last night if you watched Yankees Giants. It to me it just seems like a fair compromise, right? It's kind of like the new challenge rule in college basketball, and I think it really does make sense, a really good compromise, and I'm also glad that it's in place because you never want anybody to lose their job because there is a human element to all of this. So I think it's great that it's there.
Yeah, and again, it keeps the strategy involved instead of just, all right, there's a box on the screen. If it hits it, it's a strike. If not, it's a ball. Like it does keep the strategy involved of when are you going to challenge? And catchers, a large part of playing defense as a catcher is being able to steal strikes, and that's still a part of the game, especially with only having 2 challenges. So I think that's great. What did you think of the Netflix broadcast last night?
I thought it was all right. I definitely think there were some things that could have been better about it.
Yeah,
In terms of
they were working out some
presentation,
kinks.
right? But it was. It's just hard because of all these different streaming services. I know, like there were. I personally know some people that were not able to watch because they don't have Netflix. So that part of it is kind of frustrating, just because you have to have streaming services for everything nowadays. But I thought for the most part, Netflix did an okay job. Wasn't a huge fan of the score bug. In terms of the actual game, I did expect the Giants to lose, but to not get a single run was kind of surprising. But
Yeah.
there's no way that I expected the Giants to lose. And now I see that Tony Vitello's getting memed all over the place, which I also hate to see. But yeah,
Yeah, not exactly an ideal start to the Tony Vitello era in San Francisco. 7-0 loss, and they went down early and really never showed a whole lot of life. But it's just game 1, long season, and again, it's MLB opening day today. I'm excited. We got baseball all day long, followed by the Sweet 16 too tonight. So going to be a great sports day. Baseball season, there's something about it. The weather's good. And there's always something on is my favorite part about it. It's like you get home from work and you turn on the TV and it's never like, man, what is there to watch tonight? There's always baseball, which I think is awesome.
every day, every day. And now with March Madness, this is the second to last weekend. It'll be all baseball here on out until we get to football season in August.
Right. Right. So Nashville Sounds start their season tomorrow as well. And it's always fun to go out to some Sounds games. First opportunity coming up on Tuesday as they start a series against the Charlotte Knights. So love that it's baseball season, opening day today. And you mentioned it, March Madness continues tonight, the Sweet 16. We will talk all about the Sweet 16 matchups coming up in hour number 3. Also, some big news in the coaching carousel. Will Wade is returning to LSU. We'll get into that too coming up in hour number 3. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, we will talk some March Madness in hour number 3. Get into Iowa, Nebraska tonight. Can Texas continue their run as an 11 seed? And of course, the Vols playing tomorrow against Iowa State, looking to reach another Elite 8. All of that coming up in the third and final hour of the show. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Final hour on this Thursday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Been a fun show. Had Max Herz on talking Preds for the first hour. Last hour talked some Titans. Had Jeff Hem on to talk baseball. But today is the start of the Sweet 16. The regional semifinals tonight and tomorrow, and then the Elite Eight will set the Final Four over the weekend. Let's talk some hoops. Parker, the first two games tonight are interesting. I would say Texas-Purdue is probably the game that I'm looking forward to the least. Texas, they could pull it off, but I do think their luck runs out against the Boilermakers. But Iowa-Nebraska tonight, I will be seated for that game. I think it is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. And one of those teams is going to the Elite Eight, which, as you said to Jeff Hem, I think somebody would have called you crazy if you said one of Iowa-Nebraska is going to be in the Elite Eight at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, no, it is absurd to think about, considering the fact that Nebraska has never won an NCAA tournament game prior to this year. I think Fred Hoiberg should be a lock for Coach of the Year if Nebraska makes it to the Elite Eight. The fact that they're even in the second weekend is a really big deal. And it's kind of like last year when you got Tennessee and Kentucky in the Sweet 16, a huge rivalry game. Neither team has ever met in the NCAA tournament before until last year. Same thing with Nebraska and Iowa. They've never met in the NCAA tournament before. They're meeting in the Sweet 16, a chance to go to the Elite Eight. Both of these teams have already played each other twice, so they kind of have a feel for each other. And the contrast in styles, right? I mean, Iowa plays, I think it's like the third slowest rate in the country, and Nebraska ball has their nickname for a reason because they're so fast-paced, so high-tempo, lots of threes, quick possessions. So it's probably the game that I'm looking forward to most tonight, if I'm being honest.
See, we're going to get into Arkansas, Arizona, and I've said from the second the bracket came out that was the matchup I was looking forward to the most, because I think Acuff against that Arizona team is going to be a lot of fun. That's later on tonight. But you mentioned it. This is a Nebraska and Iowa matchup between teams that know each other, right? Like they played in Iowa City back in February, and Nebraska didn't quite have their shot falling that night. A little bit of a rock fight, 57-52, Iowa won. But then played just a couple of weeks ago in Lincoln, an overtime game, and Nebraska got the win there. So we've gotten two good games between these two teams before. And I think America, if you don't have a dog in the fight the rest of the way, I think America is rooting for this Iowa-Nebraska winner to pull off the upset and get to the Final Four.
100%. And I cannot lie, I am a little biased because I love Nebraska ball. I love it so much. I love Iowa State. I hate that they're matched up with Tennessee this weekend, but I really love both teams. I'd love to see Nebraska go to the Final Four. I would absolutely love it. The problem is, who would they would have to play Houston or Illinois. That'd be a really tough matchup. I mean, they've beaten Illinois already, but you get Houston in that Elite Eight with a spot to go to the Final Four. That's a tall order.
Yeah, especially in Houston. I saw Kelvin Sampson made the joke as he got off the team bus at the hotel. He said, man, quick flight. Because guess what? They're in their own city, which is great. So Houston definitely the favorite to come out of that South region with 1 seed Florida already eliminated. Let's get to Texas-Purdue here. Again, it's the game that I would say I'm least excited for over the next 2 days, because I think Purdue is going to handle business. They've got too much talent. Obviously, a disappointing start to the season for them, but they end up winning the Big Ten. They're playing great basketball right now with Kaufman, Wren, and Lawyer and Smith. I think Purdue is going to be too much for Texas. Do you think that the Longhorns have a shot to keep the Cinderella run going?
I do. It's hilarious because I was at the game at the SEC tournament when Texas lost to Ole Miss, a team that was 12-19 heading into the tournament, and Texas, who was, at the time, I think they had a last four bye, according to Lenardi, they just squeak into the tournament, and now they're in the Sweet 16. So it's a great run. Now, Texas has had the talent all year, right? Jordan Pope, Tremont Mark, their big guy, Volkatitis. They have the talent to compete with Purdue. But then I go back to this is the year I feel like Purdue, this is their best chance to go on a run because you have Braden Smith, you have Trey Kaufman-Wren, you have Fletcher Lawyer. These guys have been together for 4 years, which is so rare that your core is there for all 4 years. So next year is going to be, Matt Painter has shown that he can be consistent at Purdue, but it's going to be tough having to replace all 3 of those guys. So this is the best chance for Purdue to get to another Final Four. I think this is the year that they can do it, and I think they get back past Texas for that reason alone.
Yes, I would agree. I think Purdue moves on, and then we mentioned the other side of that bracket is Arkansas, Arizona, that'll be a fun game tonight. We'll get into all of that coming up in just a bit. I was going to save this, Parker, but it is the story of the day, and we just got a text. 7268 says LSU officially has the least likable athletic department in the NCAA with Lane Kiffin, Kim Mulkey, and now Will Wade. I feel like we've got to discuss this. Will Wade going back to LSU is just absolutely hilarious. I mean, the LSU really is collecting infinity stones of like I got to be careful what I say here, but like at least likable coaches that you can find. Kiffin, of course, he is known as maybe not one of the good guys of college football. Mulkey, of course, has her outbursts. Will Wade bouncing around after 1 year at NC State. He comes back to LSU. And then even baseball with Jay Johnson. Like LSU, that is, if you have an ego as a head coach, find your way down to Baton Rouge.
And just consider who the football team moved off of, right? Brian Kelly. So, right. I mean, it's just a lot of names that are floating around. What I want to know is, where's LSU getting all this money? Because they had to buy out Brian Kelly, and then you go and you get Lane Kiffin, you sign him a deal, make him a top 5 highest paid coach. You have Kim Mulkey already there. You go and you get your boy Will Wade back. I think it's hilarious. I really think all of this is just hilarious. And it doesn't seem real, but then again, we are in the NIL era. So it shouldn't be that confusing.
I mean, it's so funny. And Will Wade, I guess, is the kind of guy you would expect to do this. But I saw the clip of his press conference at the ACC tournament where they kind of asked him, like, hey, would you be interested in other jobs? And he goes, I've talked to our athletic director. I'm bought in on NC State. It's been a disappointing season, but I'm bought in here. We're going to get this thing figured out. And somebody else dug up the tweet from last year when they hired him of him sitting and recreating the Jimmy V picture with the net and the basketball. I'm like, man, just hilarious for him to dip and just go back to LSU where he was forced out for a scandal of paying players. Like Baton Rouge is just a crazy place. And that athletic department, I really don't know how they all fit through the door.
I don't know either. And on the other side of this, I feel terrible for NC State because they moved off Kevin Keats, they hired Will Wade, and now they have to hire another coach. So this is their second coaching search in the last 2 years.
Right. Well, yeah, what a crazy couple of years for NC State where Kevin Keats was going to get fired, but they decided to go win the ACC and go to the Final Four. And then he disappointed the next year, and they're like, all right, well, that only bought you an extra year. You're gone. They bring in Will Wade, who was I think he was the gem of last year's coaching cycle coming from McNeese, and then he dips a year later. So hilarious stuff. Will Wade going back to LSU, and I think 7268 is correct that the LSU Tigers are now the villain of college sports if they weren't already, with Kiffin, Mulkey, Wade, and Jay Johnson as their 4 main head coaches down there for the Bayou Bengals. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. When we come back, we will get into the late games tonight. Arizona and Arkansas, Illinois and Houston should both be great games to punch tickets to the Elite Eight. We'll talk about it coming up next. Then we'll get into the Vols and Iowa State as they get set for their Sweet 16 matchup tomorrow night. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly. Will Wade calling Baton Rouge. Heading back to LSU after just one season at NC State. And we were just going through that. As 7268 says on the text line, the least likable athletic department in the NCAA. And I don't think anybody could argue with that, with Kiffin, Mulkey, Wade, Jay Johnson as the four main head coaches on that campus. Let's talk back into the late games tonight. And Arizona, Arkansas, I've been praising this game for weeks now, and I am so excited to watch it tonight. I mean, this is the game where I think Darius Acuff can cement himself as one of the elite freshmen that John Calipari has had. I know that Connor Newt is not happy with the idea that some people have that he might be one of the best freshman point guards that Calipari has ever had. If he wants to be in that conversation with John Wall, with Derrick Rose, with some of the other names, he has to be able to come through tonight, I think. And winning the game, of course, would be the big thing. But at the very least, he's got to go blow for blow with what is a more talented Arizona team.
Yeah, the more I watch Arizona, the more that I think they're the most talented team in the field. I think if Arizona plays their A+, there's no chance Arkansas beats them, just because they run, a 7-man rotation. They don't have a deep bench. But Darius Acuff is certainly good enough to neutralize all of that. And if he drops, 40 points, I think Arkansas is right in the mix here. I do think this is probably the sexiest matchup on paper in terms of the Sweet 16 matchups that we do have. So I'm probably, this is right up there for me in terms of, what I'm most excited to watch. I think I did pick Arkansas to win when I first filled out my bracket, just because I wanted to have an upset in there. I didn't want all 1 seeds making it to the Elite Eight or the Final Four. But the more I watch Arizona, the more that I think that it's less likely that Arkansas beats them. But if we get 40-plus points from Darius Acuff tonight, it's anyone's game.
See, I have Arizona as my national champion. So I do think the Wildcats are going to win. And it is funny, we talk about this being the sexiest matchup on paper and the game we can't wait to watch, which probably means it'll be a blowout. That's usually what happens, is the games that you think on paper are going to be the best end up being uncompetitive. The game tonight, the late one, it's a 9:05 tip in Houston. It is Houston against Illinois. See, that one, I like Illinois. Illinois is good. I think this might be the year for Houston. I really do. Like, they came up just short last year against Florida. They had that game in control, ended up blowing it late. I like Kelvin Sampson. I like this Houston team. They brought back talent from last year's runner-up squad. They also brought in some really talented freshmen. If Kelvin Sampson's going to get it done, you're playing on your home court, I think that they should be the favorite to get out of that South region and head to the Final Four.
Yeah, I think this is another, great opportunity for Houston. Just, how phenomenal Kingston Flemings has been, and the contributors that they have coming back. You need Emmanuel Sharp to be hot tonight, because there have been several points this year where he has been cold. If he's hot, then Houston's going to roll. Illinois is fun to watch, but there have just been some points where you watch him and you're like, man, that's a national championship contender or a borderline national championship contender. And then there are other points where you're just like, I'm not sure. So I think this is still going to be a really good matchup. A 2.5-point favorite for Houston. I do have Houston advancing to the Final Four. I think they win tonight.
Yeah, I think for Illinois, honestly, it might come down. Freshman has kind of been the story of the year in college basketball. So many talented freshmen around the country. And Keaton Wagler is up there among the best. And him having a great game tonight against Houston may be enough. But you mentioned Flemings for Houston. It might be those two freshmen going at it, which could decide who moves on to the Elite Eight.
And I think, too, with this Illinois team, they're really good at offensive rebounding. They are I feel like they're one of the better offensive teams Brad Underwood has had in recent years. They went toe-to-toe with Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament. That was a 91-88 final. So they can certainly fill it up. Will Houston be able to match that? Maybe, but what has Houston been known for? And that's, mudding up games, defensively low scoring. So, again, two contrasting styles here. But I do think Houston gets it done. Plus, they do have the home court advantage.
Yes, they do. And they should have a decent crowd out there in Houston full of Cougars fans, although Nebraska and Iowa are there too. So I'm sure that they have brought some fans down there to Houston as well. Looking ahead to tomorrow, four more Sweet 16 games. We'll get into Tennessee and Iowa State coming up in the next segment, but I think the East region, we've said it all week, the East region is the most exciting just because of the brands in that bracket, the coaches in that bracket, the talent in that bracket. Like it's going to be fun tomorrow. Duke St. John's, the early game out in the East, and then Michigan State, UConn. I think that I could see any of those four teams going to the Final Four out of that bracket. Like all four of them are talented enough to do it. And I think we're going to get really competitive games in both of those matchups tomorrow night.
Yeah, and all coaches in that bracket, there's a lot of star power there because they've either been to at least a Final Four or a national championship. And between the four of them, I think there's 6 combined national championships because John Shire has 1 as a player, Dan Hurley has 2, Rick Pitino has 2, and Tom Izzo has 1. So a lot of star power there. St. John's Duke is probably going to that's another one. I mean, say what you want about the Cinderellas, and I get it. Like it doesn't have that same appeal. You know, we didn't have a lot of upsets this year, kind of like last year, but it makes for getting better games, you know, once you get to the round of 32, once you get to the Sweet 16 and so on. And this is one of them because St. John's is hot. They're 22-1 in their last 23 games. Duke has been the best team pretty much all year. So this is going to be a collision course. I see this one getting real nasty, but you know, the fans would not have it any other way.
Duke 6.5-point favorites in that game. And the big question is whether Caleb Foster is going to return. John Shire said he has an outside shot. I would guess he's probably not going to play, but you don't want to put it out there that he's not going to play too early. You want to have a little gamesmanship there, but that could be a huge addition for this Duke team as they try and make their way to a national championship. Do they get Caleb Foster back at some point during the tournament? That could decide whether they're able to cut down the nets.
Kind of like the Joshua Jefferson thing with Iowa State, right? We're not going to know until we know. So the good news is they did get their big guy back, and I thought Caden Boozer has played up, you know, been called upon to play a bigger role, obviously, and he's certainly delivered. So with Duke, I think they're going to be just fine, even if they don't have Caleb Foster. Now, obviously, you would like to have him back, but they've still played well without him. But for St. John's, I think just how good they are defensively, a top 5 defensive team. If you are able to get some shots to fall early, like you did versus Kansas, you got to maintain that, though, because there was a point where they fell off drastically, and them and Kansas set basketball back about 20 years. So you got to be able to maintain that. But I think this game is going to be very low scoring, but it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, that's tomorrow evening, 6:10 tip between Duke and St. John's. We got 4 games tonight: Texas, Purdue, Iowa, Nebraska in the early session, Arkansas, Arizona, Illinois, Houston late night. Then tomorrow, St. John's and Duke, Alabama and Michigan. And then the night session, Michigan State and UConn. And we'll wrap up with Tennessee and Iowa State. 9-10 tip tomorrow night. Are you a fan of the late night tips for these Sweet 16 games, Parker?
I'm not, because, you know, when you get up at 5:30 in the morning, it's harder to do so. But I will say on Friday, it's not as bad. Thursday tonight, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. I will be drinking a lot of coffee today, and I will stay up for it, even if I'm tired tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, right? Like, you can't miss out on these games. And I guess that's what the NCAA is banking on, that you're going to stay up and watch it no matter what time they put it on. So we'll talk about that Tennessee and Iowa State game coming up next. Again, 9-10 tip tomorrow as the Vols try and reach the Elite Eight for the 3rd straight year. Our NCAA men's basketball tournament coverage is presented by Toyota, Let's Go Places, Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery, Maple Street Biscuit Company, Wake Up to Wow, Thompson Machinery, and Pizzona MD. No open spots on the bench. Ask about a scalpel-free vasectomy at Pizzona MD in Brentwood, PizzonaMD.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, more NCAA tournament conversation coming up next. You're on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Couple more segments on your Thursday morning. The Sweet 16 tips off tonight. 4 games today, 4 more tomorrow. And Tennessee will be the nightcap tomorrow night against Iowa State. And Parker, I think Tennessee's got a shot here, right? And a lot of that may depend on whether Joshua Jefferson is healthy for the Cyclones. But I think the main thing I look at for Tennessee is Nate Amon. I think you've got the talent around him to stay in the game. I think whether you win or not may depend on whether the freshman is able to step up and have a big game to get the team to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, a lot of the focus is going to be on him. I actually talked to Iowa State's play-by-play guy yesterday, John Walters, and he talked about how the focus was going to be on Nate Amon and how, he's one of the best freshmen in the country. Jacoby Gillespie has probably been the best player, but in terms of ceiling, Nate Amon, I mean, nobody's going to touch his ceiling on the team. I think for Iowa State, and please nobody go running with this because I haven't heard this from anybody, but I do think Joshua Jefferson is going to play. That's just my intuition. That's just my gut feel. So I'm actually excited that he's going to play, and I hope that Nate Amon is 100% healthy because that is going to be the best in terms of entertainment value because we're getting best on best. For Tennessee, the big thing for them is just don't turn the ball over because there have been so many times where Tennessee has looked like a Elite Eight, Final Four team, but then they lose it in the second half because they're turning the ball over. This team could have 30 wins if they didn't turn the ball over as much. And that's what cost them a lot in these games. So you tried to hand it Virginia in the second half. You turned the ball over, I think it was like 9 times in the second half. If you don't do that versus Iowa State, that's their bread and butter is getting those turnovers. You don't do that versus Iowa State, this is going to be a rock fight.
No, I'm with you that in a game like this where you're facing a team that is a Final Four contender in Iowa State, you can't be giving them any help. And the easiest way to do that would be turning the ball over, letting their defense turn into offense. And I think if Tennessee is able to take care of the basketball, they've got a shot in this game. You're right. We don't know about Jefferson. And as we just talked about with Caleb Foster, I'm sure there's some gamesmanship there of they're going to wait until the last possible second to make a determination. That way Tennessee doesn't get any extra time to prepare, whether that's with or without him. But if they're able to take care of the ball, Gillespie and Amon, if they're hitting their shots, this is a Tennessee team that is surely talented enough to win this game and move on to the Elite Eight for the 3rd straight year. Easier said than done if you end up facing Michigan in the Elite Eight, but it just shows you the consistency of Rick Barnes in this Vols program to have them back in this position in another 4th straight season in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, this is a huge win for the Vols, just making it to the second weekend, making it to the 4th straight Sweet 16, a chance to go to the 3rd straight Elite Eight. When this team was assembled, there were several points early on where I'm watching them, and I'm like, this just looks like a collection of transfers because that's what college basketball has become. Then they started to gel, and they started to hit that stride when they won 8 out of 10, and then they kind of fell back down to earth. So it's been up and down, hot and cold, but still just the fact that you tried to give that game away to Virginia in the second half. You still won, and you're at this point. It is a huge testament to Rick Barnes. I don't know how he continues to do it because he's one of the older coaches in the country, and he's been able to adapt from being an old school coach to a new school coach at his age. It's impressive.
No, you're right. There are plenty of coaches, it doesn't matter what sport it is, who are set in their ways, and when the landscape of college sports changed, they did not adapt with it. I think Dabo Swinney is a big example of that in college football, of he didn't want to adapt to the transfer portal and NIL, and he got left behind. Rick Barnes has done the opposite. He's done a nice job of continuing to be a good coach the way he's always been, but adapting the way he builds his roster to the present modern day of college basketball. And you've seen it with the results. I mean, 4 straight Sweet 16s is not easy to do. I know that Vols fans want that Final Four, but you got to be in the conversation to get there, and he's had them in the conversation for the last half decade.
Yeah, and I hope that Tennessee fans really don't take this run for granted, because before Rick Barnes, I mean, it wasn't good. It was not good. I mean, there were some, Bruce Pearl and Konzo Martin, there were some good moments, but but Rick Barnes has constantly, year in and year out, had this team at least in the discussion. Even if they're not in the Final Four, even if they're not in the national championship picture, you've at least been a part of the discussion. And for him to elevate Tennessee basketball to this point, I think he's the best coach in Tennessee basketball history. So I hope fans do not take this for granted. And the day when Rick Barnes retires, I think that he's elevated this program so much that it's going to be a high profile job, and people are going to want to come to coach at Tennessee.
100%. And, you never know when Rick Barnes is going to hang them up, but when he does, I do think that Tennessee is a much more attractive job than it was when he took over. So Tennessee, Iowa State, Sweet 16 tomorrow night, 9-10 tip. And excited to see if Tennessee can pull off the upset there. Tomorrow afternoon, right here in Fort Worth, Texas, Vandy women's basketball taking on Notre Dame. Spot in the Elite Eight on the line there as well. And for those of you who maybe don't follow women's basketball all that much, I'm sure you've still heard the names Michaela Blakes and Hannah Hidalgo. It's not a one-on-one game. It's 5-on-5, and I think Vandy has the better supporting cast around their stars in tomorrow's matchup. But it is going to be must-watch basketball tomorrow with Hidalgo and Blakes squaring off. I mean, it's two of the top three scorers in the country. Hidalgo averages 5.5 steals per game. So I'm excited for that. And Vandy trying to reach the Elite Eight for the first time since 2002, where there's a likely matchup with UConn and Shea Ralph's former coach, former boss, Gino Auriemma. So lots of storylines this weekend in Fort Worth. It's been fun since getting out here, and I'm fired up for the game tomorrow. I can't get here soon enough.
Yeah, just uncommon matchups. You don't typically get Vanderbilt, Notre Dame. So I do got to ask, because I know Hannah Hidalgo but why has Notre Dame struggled? Like, because they're a 6 seed, and you really wouldn't expect them to be a 6 seed at this point.
So Notre Dame, they've been one of the. This is actually their 5th straight Sweet 16 that they've been to. So they've been one of the powers in women's college basketball. They just haven't been able to get over the top. And last year was probably one of their best chances. They were a 3 seed last year, and they had Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo, who are two of the best guards in the country. And they also had a couple of WNBA draft picks, Maddie Westbeld. I'm blanking on the girl who went 3rd overall, but they had a lot of talent last year and just came up short and kind of had to disband. And Hidalgo was really the only key player who stuck around from last year's team. So it's a little bit of a retooling year for Notre Dame, but they've been able to get back to the Sweet 16 because they do have one of the best players in the country in Hannah Hidalgo. So definitely not a team that Vanderbilt can look past. It's a very good Notre Dame team, but I do think when you look at the totality of the rosters, I think Vanderbilt is the more talented team in tomorrow's game.
Yeah, and just listening to the way like Shea Ralph has talked and the assistant coaches that we've had on the show, it doesn't seem like they're going to look past Notre Dame. But, thinking as a player, it's got to be in the back of your mind, too, that if you win this game, you get to play UConn, which is where Shea Ralph came from. So that would be, as a player, that would be hard to look past, but you got to focus on Notre Dame because they're certainly capable of winning.
Yes, 100%. And I'm sure Shea will have comments about UConn if that matchup ends up being set tomorrow afternoon. But they've done a very nice job of emphasizing it's a 1-game season. If you lose, your season is over. So there's no room to look ahead to Sunday's matchup before taking on Notre Dame. But excited for that. It'll be a 1:30 tip tomorrow. I'll have your coverage on 94.9 The Fan at 1:15. In the Sweet 16, Vanderbilt trying to move on and set up a possible matchup with UConn on Sunday. The Huskies will take on North Carolina after the Vandy Notre Dame game tomorrow. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Last call for phones. We've got one more segment on this Thursday. It is not a TD Thursday because TD is on his way to New York for opening day to watch his New York Mets play. But TD did tweet out some mock drafts this morning. He said he completed them while he was sitting in the airport. So we're going to go through those and give you at least a little taste of TD on this Thursday to wrap up the show coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, wrapping up the show on this Thursday. Even with TD out, we only know one way to end the show on Thursday. So it's been a fun one today. Big thanks to Max Herz for joining us in the first hour. Jeff Hem talking baseball in hour number 2. And again, it is opening day. Sounds open their season tomorrow, but it's also draft season. So do want to wrap up the show here with some mock drafts that TD has so nicely put out on Twitter this morning. Tehran couldn't join us today. He's on his way up to New York for opening day of the Mets season, but he put out 2 Titans mock drafts, and I wanted to go through these quickly. Have you seen these yet, Parker?
I saw one, and I really liked it. I didn't see the others.
So I actually really like both of these. So the first one TD put out has the Titans taking David Bailey at 4, Chris Bell at 35, Joshua Josephs at 66, so doubling up on edge in those first 3 picks. Zakee Whitley, the safety from Penn State at 101, and also getting Ephesians Prysock, the cornerback from Washington, and Jake Slaughter, the center from Florida. I won't go through the rest of them.
Not in the first round, by the way.
Right, not at 23 like Nick Frazier had him going. But if those are your first 6 picks, I would feel really good about that. You get 2 young, talented edge rushers. You get a wide receiver that Chris Bell probably is a first-round pick if he doesn't get injured last year. You get a long cornerback in Prysock and a young center who possibly could either start this year or grow into a starting role. I think that's a really nice mock draft from TD if that's the way the board falls.
Yeah, Jake Slaughter is, I think every mock draft that I've had Jake Slaughter going to the Titans in the 4th round, and I think that would be very wise because he's a all-SEC guard or a center. Now, I know that you don't want a rookie out there, having to, call protections, call out the mic, all that stuff, and pair that with Cam Ward. You'd prefer to have a veteran at center, but Jake Slaughter is one of those guys that can be groomed into a starter at some point, and I think it would be very wise for the Titans to consider drafting him maybe late day 2, but I see him going early day 3.
Yeah, I mean, I really like what TD did there. And again, these are mock draft simulators, so you never really know how the board's going to fall, but at least gives you an idea of pockets of players who will be available at certain picks. So the first draft, TD went with the strategy of taking David Bailey at 4, which that would be my favorite scenario. Titans get Bailey, who I think is the best pass rusher in this draft. But I like that in his second one, he went with Jeremiah Love at 4, because I think those are the 2 most likely scenarios, Bailey or Love. So in this second one from TD, he puts Jeremiah Love at 4, Denzel Boston at 35, R. Mason Thomas at 66, Derek Moore at 101. See, if this is the way it falls, I don't know which one I would like better, right? Like, you get 2 talented edge rushers in both of these mock drafts. And I don't think R. Mason Thomas is going to fall to 66 like he does in this one. But, for the sake of the conversation, I think I might prefer this one. Love, Boston, and R. Mason Thomas. Like, that's a really good first 3 picks to come out of Friday with.
And if the board happens to fall that way, it's really impressive. Jeremiah Love, a lot of us are on board with that. Denzel Boston is a first-round caliber receiver. I'm really high on him. I think his ability to just make some freak contested catches is almost second to none in this. So I'd be happy with that. And then R. Mason Thomas has been getting some run. I've seen a couple mock drafts that have him going late first. So if you get him in the 3rd round, man, that is a steal.
Yes. So I don't think that's the way the board's going to fall. There's a chance that Love, Boston, and Thomas all go in the 1st round. So getting all 3 of them, probably not super realistic, but I mean, I don't blame TD. If that's the way the board falls, I would have taken those guys too. And then Derek Moore, you've got a very strong power rusher out of Michigan. He also got Markel Bell, the big tackle from Miami, which could end up being a good developmental piece behind Latham and Dan Moore. So I think if I had to choose between those 2 mock drafts, I'd go with the second one where you get Love, Boston, and Thomas. Again, however unrealistic that may be to get those 3 players all in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, Markel Bell is really interesting just because that is a hoss on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, that's a big man.
If you could work with him a little bit and get him, I hope Carmen Brasilla can work some magic because that that dude has a lot of potential. Still pretty raw, but you can't teach size, as they say.
Right. Yeah, that's one of those things where if you're picking him in the 4th or 5th round, it is a developmental pick, and you hope that with the size and strength that he has, that an NFL offensive line coach like Carmen Brasillo can get the most out of him. But I like both those mock drafts from TD. If that's the way the board fell, either way, I think I would leave pretty pleased. In the first one, you get David Bailey and Joshua Josephs on the edge. Chris Bell could end up being a steal at 35 because of the injury. And then in the other one, you get Love, you get Boston as playmakers for Cam Ward, and still able to add young, talented pieces on the edge in R. Mason Thomas and Derek Moore. So there's TD's contribution to the show today. We know he's having a blast up there at Citi Field, getting ready to do his 999 for the Mets and Pirates later today, I'm sure.
You think he's actually going to do it?
No, I do not. I do not think that is up TD's alley.
I don't think so either.
But it's fun to imagine. And he's up there for opening day across MLB today. I'm excited. We got Sweet 16 matchups tonight. It's going to be a fun sports day. And again, we'll have you all covered here on 102.5 The Game. I am a little shocked that we got through the show today, Parker, with the technical difficulties we had to start things off. So
where there is a will, there is a way.
We found a way through when my computer just decided, hey, it's 8:58. You go on the air at 9. I'm going to stop working, which is always what happens. The technical difficulties happen at the worst time, but we made it through. And it was a fun show today with Max and Jeff joining us. Tomorrow, I will not be on the show, but you will be in the capable hands of Connor Newton, Nick Frazier. The Weekend Huddle boys will take over.
Capable is a strong word, but
yeah, I don't even know the solid hands of Nick Frazier.
Who knows where we're going tomorrow? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I will have to listen in. Who knows? Maybe I'll find a way to call in and give a little preview to the game tomorrow. So I will be out getting ready for Vanderbilt and Notre Dame Sweet 16 matchup in women's basketball, but should be a fun show tomorrow with Nick Frazier and Connor Newt. But excited for the weekend of sports. Again, next time I'm on, we will have the Final Four set on the men's side, getting ready to get it set on the women's side. So lots of fun basketball, baseball, hockey going on this weekend. Predators are back on the ice tonight, taking on the New Jersey Devils. And I did want to mention before we go, Justus Onninen looks like he is going to get the start against the Devils today. Max Herz talked about that being a possibility, so it will be big juice in net against the Devils, giving Saros a little bit of a day off to get ready for Saturday against the Canadiens. That will do it for us on the show today. Again, I am out tomorrow. Connor Newt and Nick Frazier will have you from 9 to noon on Friday. But coming up next, Chase and Big Joe, you're listening to 102.5 The Game.